Are you ready for some smart, plain talk on politics, Israel, and the law? It's the Andrew Parker Show. Let's roll. Welcome to another episode of the Andrew Parker Show, and thank you once again for listening in. We talk politics, Israel, and the law every episode. Now over 425 episodes. I think this could be 428 or 429. Yeah, I think it is. Definitely in there. And it is issues of the day that we discuss, and we've got an election coming up. A lot sooner than most of you might think, in fact. Off-year election in the city of Minneapolis to elect our mayor and council members, those who make decisions about how to run the largest city in the state of Minnesota and one of the most important cities in the Midwest, and a city that has gotten notorious coverage nationwide over the last several years. You, of course, remember how Minnesota was the place that people would come to raise a family. It was the cover of Time magazine with Wendy Anderson. That was the zenith of Minnesota, wasn't it? Best place to live anywhere in the United States. Led by its North Star city, the city of Minneapolis, right? Well, it didn't appear as such in the summer of 2020. Now then, did it? Billions of dollars of damage, a police precinct building destroyed and given up by the city to those who would openly break the law. And, in the end, let's see if we can try it again.
Those people told you for days in advance that if the university sought to go ahead with that construction, they were going to physically destroy the university. Now, why did you
negotiate many times?
Negotiate? What is to negotiate? What is?
The university is a public institution.
That's right. But the university,
for its own community and for the community of Berkeley that live around it.
All of it began the first time some of you who know better and are old enough to know better let young people think that they had the right to choose the laws they would obey as long as they were doing it in the name of social protest.
Oh, yeah. You can obey the laws you wish. You can ignore those and burn out an entire police precinct if you wish, because it's social protest. There it is. People dead. Again, $1 billion property destroyed. Social protest. And from that point forward, have things gotten better? No. And reasonable folks who work and live in the city of Minneapolis are just about ready to take their city back. Aren't they? Well, that's kind of the question for this episode. Coming up in just a couple of weeks, I think a couple of weeks from Tuesday, is an election in Minneapolis, as I said. And it is a very, very important one. Are we going to give our city over to socialists, to those in the name of social protest, are demanding that we ignore the law, we ignore law and order and the rule of law, we ignore safety and security, we ignore economic systems that pull the poor out of poverty, and instead, free for everyone, everything, and driving business out of the city of Minneapolis. Is that what we're going to go for? Or are we going to come back to a Democratic Party that is responsible and at one time were the adults in the room? We're joined by a very special guest, and I'm honored to have him on the show, Jim Rubin. Jim was, well, who knew it? Coming from, a businessman minding his own business here in the city of Minneapolis to a movie star in one of the most important videos that you could watch. A documentary. It's more than a video. It's a documentary that you could watch because it talks about the downfall of Minneapolis and the fact that we still have some hope of saving it, but that hope is dying out quickly. So what are we going to do? The name of the documentary, Precarious State, includes comments, discussion, background provided by our guest, Jim Rubin. It was put together by journalist Rick Kupchella, who you may remember. What was he, WCCO? Or he was a journalist for many years. I knew him well back then. Haven't talked to him for quite some time. We may get Kupchella on the show as well, however. And again, the name of the documentary, Precarious State. You can go to precarioustate.com. But I would suggest you go to the andrewparkershow.com, click on the tab Resources, and we have the documentary right there for you. The andrewparkershow.com. You know it well. And when you go there, subscribe, follow us, make sure that you like the show and that you have ease of getting to us through YouTube. Give us your email, and you will be included immediately when the next episode drops. Again, the andrewparkershow.com, Resources, Precarious State. That's the documentary. Jim Rubin, welcome to the Andrew Parker Show. I'm thrilled to have you here. I first want to ask you, give us a little background so our listeners have a sense of from whence you come to where you are.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. So my story, well, I grew up close to here in Hastings. My wife grew up in Fridley. I'm a St. Cloud State Husky. My wife's U of M Gopher. Families have been here for multiple generations.
Minnesotans through and true.
Through and through. You know, both of us worked downtown Minneapolis for years. So yeah, we've been here all our lives. Somewhere along the line, about 31, 32 years ago, I decided that I wanted more than just a desk job. I was actually a computer programmer. And kind of as a hobby, as a part-time investment, I bought an apartment building over in the Grand Avenue area of St. Paul. And this was in 1994. And basically realized when I got into it that I liked it. It was something I was good at, could do. And I saw that, I could be successful at it. So one by one over the years, just worked hard, improved the properties, provided good service, and was able to just slowly but surely build it up. And over the first 25, 26, 27 years, ended up building a fairly large portfolio of apartment buildings here in the Twin Cities. In particular, we were about 10% St. Paul and 90% Minneapolis. And so
a big Minneapolis property owner is now starting to look at, a city that's up and coming, which about a decade ago or more, it was really filling in.
Yeah, and it's actually more recent than that. So from 1994 until 2020,
Till 2020. Okay.
Every year, year in and year out, the city got better. Both cities, St. Paul and Minneapolis. And what I mean by that is that if you look at how things were at the beginning of the year and then at the end of the year, they were always better at the end of the year. That could mean neighborhoods improving. It could be the economy doing better. It could be rents going up. It could be a variety of things. But year in and year out, every year for that span, we were on a really good run. It was a very good run, right? And
things good for business are good for the average person on the street.
Yeah, that's correct. Because so my business, my apartments they're very inner city. They are older buildings. So I don't build new buildings. I buy older buildings. My strategy was buy older buildings that were kind of neglected, roll up my sleeves, fix them up, get better tenants, make the city happy, make the community happy. So yes, we were a successful business, but it's a kind of an ecosystem, if you will, right? The better the neighborhoods are, that's better for my properties. The better my properties are, that's better for the communities, right? So I was very conscious of that, of making sure that what I was doing was benefiting the neighborhood so that the neighborhood's getting better. And part of that meant being involved, right? So I'm involved with Minnesota Multi-Housing Association, which is kind of a statewide group of apartment owners that get involved in the industry. I would get involved in local politics, knowing my city council members, for example, and working with them if they had questions about our industry or how to craft policy. So as I'm going through this and getting larger and larger, I'm also just playing a bigger role in the communities. And understand that our space is considered NOAA housing, or natural occurring affordable housing. So you'll hear people talk a lot about how important affordable housing is. Well, that is the space that I was in. So we were able to purchase properties, make them nice, rent them up, but still our rents were considered very affordable. We also, through the years, ended up working with a lot of support organizations. For example, Section 8 is the most known, but there are many, many support organizations, and we were happy to work with those. So everybody wins, right? Everybody's winning in this formula. And it was great up all the way into 2020. And then that's when things changed.
And what is your sense of what occurred the summer of 2020? Obviously, George Floyd's murder was a tipping point, but really didn't it go far beyond that?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. And a lot of times people will say the issues we have are because of George Floyd or because of COVID or whatnot. And my response to that is, if you look at the last half a dozen years since 2020 and you compare Minneapolis to other cities, many other cities are doing quite a bit better, whether it's growth, office occupancy, apartment values, rents, GDP, economy, whatever. Minneapolis isn't doing very well compared to the other cities. And those other cities dealt with a lot of the same issues. The key event, there's a couple of things. The actual key event was how the city leadership decided to deal with the George Floyd event at the time. Could have gone multiple directions, but the direction they chose was to really jump on kind of that anti-law enforcement bandwagon. But you have to understand, the story starts a little before then. And this is important to understand, is in approximately the year 2016, 2017, a new kind of political platform entered the city, right? And a new culture, a new platform, a new set of people got involved. And you'll hear us talk about that as the DSA, or Democrats, Socialists of America, right? So prior to 2016, 2017, again, things have been going really well for a long time. And people like myself and a lot our industry and other industries didn't pay super close attention to kind of who was getting elected and who's getting into office. We didn't worry about it because it was generally working fine. What happened is, in the 2017 election, you saw a significant change where people ascribing to the DSA platform and ideology made significant inroads into the Minneapolis City Council.
What is the DSA platform and ideology?
Well, the DSA platform, first of all, DSA stands for Democrat Socialists of America. So a lot of their policies do align with what people typically consider socialism. And so, kind of anti-capitalist, lots of regulation, higher taxes, anti-business, a lot of those kinds of policies. And we started to see some of that enter into some of the policies they were passing, after the 2017 election. So particularly in our industry, people started to pay attention like, wow, there's some pretty radical policies coming through. We should get more involved. But what happened is that the set of people who were elected in 2017 were the ones in power in 2020 when we had all the issues. And they, at that time then, when the issues happened, they embraced much more emphatically this anti-police policy. And that really became a cornerstone of their platform, right? So you take their typical platform and their typical kind of socialist ideas, and now you add to it an anti-law enforcement component. And that's what we had running our city in the summer of 2020, all right? So it was one thing to deal with a policy that was harmful to housing that we wanted to explain and stop. That's what we were doing leading up to 20. But it's a whole other thing when your leadership decides they want to move away from having a police department. That's a whole different ballgame. And that's what really caused the city to enter a tailspin, right? So what happened is in 2017, we have the DSA, kind of the far left, take significant control of city council. In 2020, they add to their platform, hey, we think law enforcement is a problem. We should get rid of it. All right. Then there was a lot of unrest that summer, of course. But what ultimately happened is there was a vote in June of 2020 to actually defund the police. I mean, the city council got on stage and said, we want to get rid of MPD. We'll figure it out. About 2 months later, in August, there was another incident downtown Minneapolis, and again, civil unrest. And what happened is the police department really backed off, and particularly downtown Minneapolis was severely damaged. And it was that event that people...
And the uptown area, no?
In the August event, there was some, but it was primarily in downtown. It was very... There's broken glass and, looting everywhere.
And businesses were boarding up their windows and closing early.
Yes. So after this event, you started to see a lot more of that boarding up and just leaving. But it was the citizens, it was the people who lived in the city that watched this and realized, whoa, this is out of control. Like MPD doesn't the police force can't handle what's happening here. It's obvious, right? And it was it
was something so foreign to Minnesotans.
Of course.
This isn't Minnesota.
No, the videos of the smashing the windows and the looting and the just complete chaos and out of control, right? And so, obviously after the George Floyd event, after the funding, there was kind of unrest and violence throughout the city, but the August event was a big explosion and really scared a lot of people. And so what we saw was, it was like a light switch going off. All of a sudden, all of our tenants who had financial wherewithal left. They said, wow, I don't want to live here anymore. It's not safe. Minneapolis is not safe. Just look at the news. And so people who had money would leave for cars or family support. Basically, again, like I said, the tenants who had the ability left. Obviously, there are a lot of people who don't have the ability to leave. They don't have the finances. They don't have car, whatever. And so we saw for my portfolio, which is primarily in Southwest Minneapolis, kind of the broad uptown areas where we are, we saw roughly the top third to half of our tenant base left.
Wow.
Okay. So what does that do? Well, we all of a sudden had a lot of vacancies. I went from, tracking around a 1% to 2% vacancy up to 9 or 10%. But you also are losing, think of a company losing not just a third of their customers, but the best third. the ones that are the easiest to make money off of, the one that follow the rules the best, the ones that actually help by calling in issues and keeping an eye out for you. Okay. That population left. So we had significantly higher vacancies, we had dropping rents, and we had harder and more expensive operational numbers. Now you add to that a significant uptick in crime, it makes operational numbers even harder, right? Constantly replacing glass, removing graffiti, picking up trash, right? So because of the space I'm in, which is very inner city, affordable housing, I tell people we're pretty much on the front line. When issues happen, we feel it first. So an example is, let's just say the economy turns and gets rough. Well, my tenants are lower income, like a lot of them live paycheck to paycheck. So they, and subsequently we tend to feel that very early. And we saw that with crime, right? We saw it with crime where we are, again, inner city and crime is spiking. And so my tenants feel it, my employees feel it, I feel it, my neighborhoods feel it. And so this all kind of, the city basically went off the rails in 2020 with, COVID and unrest kind of, like you said, created an environment for this to happen. But it was how the leadership responded and the approach they embraced, which is, we're going to get rid of law enforcement.
Did you seek help from the city council?
So good question. So what's happening is I'm seeing this happen in real time, right? I'm dealing with this. I'm looking at my business all of a sudden imploding, right? Vacancy spike and all these issues happen. And at first I'm just trying to fight it out. But I realized pretty quickly that I need to get on the phone and seek help. I need to get on the phone with city leadership and let them know what's happening on the ground. And so I think it was about October of 2020 was the first time I really tried to insert myself into city governance. And I had at that time it was COVID, right? So I had to do a Zoom call with Mayor Fry, and it was great. He was awesome. It was like an hour-long session with me. I had a PowerPoint presented on all statistically how my business was doing and the impacts crime was having. And so that was the first time I really just went right to the top and said, you got to know what's going on and I need your help, right? And so that really from that point forward, I started getting involved, talking to city council members, the mayor, the mayor's office, police officers, MPD. It's kind of what you said. I wanted help. Right. I'm dying. Right. I'm dying here. My business is failing. Your neighborhoods are crumbling. The city is suffering. Crime is eating us alive. Right. And then what happens is you go through months of this. Eventually, we had an election in 2021. Okay. So now we're into 2021. There's an election in November 2021. By this time, I'm heavily engaged. I'm watching what city leadership is going to say, you know what, we need law enforcement. We have to build them back up and support them.
We have to bring it back to reasonableness.
Right. Right.
Is there anybody doing it?
That's right. That's what I was looking at in 2021. Right. Who's that versus who still gets in front of a microphone and said, the police are the problem. We need to defund the police. Right. And if you remember, there was, of course, a big question on the ballot in 2021, which is, should Minneapolis abolish the police department? Okay. Right. It's a horrible...
And it was defeated.
It was defeated pretty handily, thank goodness. But still, it's a terrible conversation to go through. You can imagine if you're a police officer and your city is debating whether to lay you off or not and shut down the whole department. It's pretty hard on the police department. And there were a lot of politicians, a lot of leaders in the city of Minneapolis and the county and the state who said, yes, Minneapolis should get rid of their police department. All right. Fortunately, it was defeated. Thank goodness. The city actually made a little bit of progress on getting better leadership. But the DSA still had a very good foothold in the city council. 2 years later, again, day in and day out, year in and year out, we're fighting crime. We're trying to survive.
2023.
But you go to 2023, and the socialists actually make significant inroads. And in the 2023 election after that, the people who were elected in 2023 are currently there now today. All right. And if you look at how they vote, what platform they embrace, do they embrace the DSA platform or do they embrace the moderate Democrat platform?
Let's come back to the current council and the DSA control of the DFL in the city of Minneapolis. You know, some say it is just a small little ineffective group of the Democratic Party in the city of Minneapolis. Very few say that because it's just not accurate. It is a controlling group within the city council in the city of Minneapolis. Whether they acknowledge the label DSA, the votes track the DSA platform more often than not. But I first want to come back to this documentary, Precarious State, and again, suggest to all of our listeners to go and get it. The AndrewParkerShow.com resources, go get it. PrecariousState.com. There have been nearly 400,000 downloads of this documentary, and it will discuss in very clear terms precisely what Jim Rubin is talking about on this episode. Again, our special guest is Jim Rubin, who has a significant portfolio of property, multifamily housing, apartment building property in the city of Minneapolis, in the inner city of Minneapolis, and this is affordable housing. He is providing what these social protest groups claim they want, and they are destroying his business with their policies and ideas. And Precarious State talks about how a city, a shining beacon on a hill city at one time, the city of Minneapolis, can be destroyed by bad policy. We are seeing it before our eyes. PrecariousState.com. Get the documentary. So, Jim, how is it that the documentary was made, or whose brainchild was it? And maybe you can describe it a little bit. And now, a word from our sponsors. A record of success second to none. Parker Daniels Keyboard Law Firm, the numbers tell the story. The last 5 cases our lawyers have brought to trial have resulted in million and multi-million-dollar verdicts for our plaintiff clients and 0 defense verdicts for our defense clients. Put simply, we try cases and we win cases. Hi, I'm Andrew Parker. At Parker Daniels Keyboard, we take our work personally and we go the extra mile. That is why some of the biggest law firms, locally and nationally, send cases to us to handle when they can't. If you have a challenging and critically important business or personal legal dispute that must be favorably resolved, whether regarding a contract matter, a business divorce, a real estate dispute, an employment dispute, a civil rights or defamation matter, plain talk, if it's a big deal, contact us at Parker Daniels Keyboard. Wise counsel, winning results. Go to parkerdk.com. Looking to reduce your tax liability and grow your portfolio? Consider Texas-based Texacoma Resources. They have been delivering results for over 40 years in energy investments. Investors may benefit with strategic advantages like depreciation, depletion, and drilling, but should consult their tax advisors for their specific situation. Call True North Investment at 612-968-3442 to learn more. That's True North Investment, 612-968-3442. Texacoma Energy that works for you.
Sure. And so it's kind of an interesting story on how the producer, Rick Cella, and I come to connect. So as I was mentioning, after the 23 elections, the socialists have now had a vast, basically veto-proof majority control of the city council. And so a lot of bad things are happening. And what needs to happen isn't happening. So,
and by the way, you can be a Democrat, a lifelong DFL City of Minneapolis Democrat, and not vote for these socialists because they are not Democrats.
That's the key. That's the key point here. So what happened was about a year ago, again, I'm very involved. I'm struggling with my business. I'm doing everything I can, talking to everybody and their mother. But about a year ago, I said, okay, 2025, there's an election for all these leaders. And it's an election for the mayor, all 13 city council members, and by the way, and park board, which is also very important.
Yes, park board.
Right. All that's going to be elected November 4th of 2025. So in 2.5 weeks. And everybody that's being elected is being elected for a 4-year term. Okay. So I'm looking at this a year ago thinking, oof, this isn't good. If we don't fix it in November of 2025, we're in big trouble. So I basically said to myself, how can I help? What can I do? So I did a lot of research, talking to people, really inserting myself into the guts of the local DFL party, all the different people who are involved, kind of the whole power structure there, and learned what I could and tried to figure out, because the puzzle I was trying to solve is, how do you take the DFL platform and their ideals, which is probably embraced by maybe 10% of our population? How do you take that population percentage, but yet get a vast majority on a city council? How did they do that? How did they manage that?
You said the DFL ideology. You meant the DSA?
Yeah. So that, yes, if I misspoke. So the DSA has a platform, which again is kind of radical left, and particularly the anti-police portion of that. They have this platform. And if you understand that DSA platform,
and it's about 10% would support that platform.
Maybe it's 5%, maybe 10, maybe 15, right? A small minority of our population, if they understood the platform, would agree to it. But yet the DSA politicians, or people who vote according to that platform, have a significant majority in the city council, right? How do you take, even though they have a minority,
punching well above their weight.
Exactly. You have a minority of people in the population who agree with your platform, but yet you have a vast majority in the city council. How did they do that? So that's what I set out to figure out and understand. Why I'm working on that, trying to figure it out, Rick Kupchella is. So Rick Kupchella started about 2 years ago. He said the same thing 2 years ago. He goes, wait a second, Minneapolis is doing terrible. Why is that? Who's doing this? Who are the people that are making policy and passing policy? So we were both on the same quest to figure this out. And we somehow randomly came in contact with each other, and we spent, 3 hours on a meeting together and realized we were trying to do the same thing, and we were complementary. I'm on the ground trying to provide a public service of affordable housing. He's trying to provide a public service of kind of education and bringing issues to light. And so, he realized that I could be a good part, I could be a part of his documentary because I am an on the ground example of what's happening and the challenges and the issues. So then he brought me in, and, we did a lot of filming. As you saw, we did a lot of filming and interviewing, and that would have been January, February, March timeframe of 2025. So we came together then, and obviously that culminated in his release on October 2nd of Precarious State. And so if
describe the documentary a little bit.
Yeah, if you look at the documentary, it is titled Precarious State. So it does talk about issues statewide. However, within the state, it definitely has a focus on the city of Minneapolis, which makes sense. City of Minneapolis is the economic engine. It's kind of the biggest, most important city in the state. So he covered a broad variety of things. But his approach was basically trying to bring to light the issues in the state, in the city, to the general public. And this is very important because what I notice for me personally is I'm in the middle of the city providing housing, and I'm struggling. And the reason I'm struggling is because my communities, my neighborhoods are struggling. And this is happening because crime is off the charts. And people with money won't live here anymore. So that means not only do I have problems, but your local coffee shop, your local restaurants are also, everybody's struggling.
Those on the left claim that the numbers don't show that crime is off the charts. In fact, crime is down, they say. I mean, what are people to believe?
Thank you for bringing that up. So in the city of Minneapolis, again, I'm providing public housing. As the documentary showed, there's some videos of gunshots, multiple shootings, right? So the video highlights a particular intersection, 19th and Nicollet, where crime is completely out of control. Okay, so that intersection is at 19th and Nicollet, has been taken over by gangs. It's actually an amalgamation of like 3 gangs got together and decided to share this area. And about 5 years ago, they set up camp at 19th and Nicollet, and there's an open air drug market. So anywhere from 2 to 30 drug dealers will just stand there all day. Starts around 8 in the morning, goes to about midnight, 7 days a week, all year long, and they openly deal drugs. And so it's like a drive-through, right? People know it now, and they just come and drive through. Open air drug market, but it also brings with it loitering, trespassing, smoking, drinking, fights, loud noise, and the occasional gunfight. Okay. That all happens unfettered, right? So
the police does nothing about it.
So I have been trying to work with the city for the last 5 years. So I talked to city council members, I talked to the mayor, I talked to the mayor's office, I talked to all levels of MPD. Ultimately, I culminated one of the last key meetings I had was one-on-one with Chief O'Hare. And I got a meeting with him. I explained who I was, introduced myself, my business, and talked about 19th and Nicollet and all the problems. And he looked at me and said, thanks for coming. I appreciate this. I understand everything. I already know this, Jim. I've been to brief. I'm fully aware, but unfortunately, we don't have the tools to take care of this problem. Now, you think about that. The city is telling me,
and it's the city council and the mayor who provides tools.
You're exactly on the right path, because you'd ask, well, why can't he take care of it? Well, when you look at the staffing levels are very low. They have lost kind of tools of engagement, things they used to be able to kind of approach people on or address, they no longer can. Loitering with the intent to commit a crime, or blocking a sidewalk, or tinted window, right? There's a whole list of tools that have been taken away. In addition,
so these are illegal actions, illegal conduct, right, by members of the public that the police are told you cannot enforce.
Basically, yes. And if you want to enforce something, the kind of the amount of effort and documentation and proof you need is that bar is raised, right? So now, if they want to arrest me for drug dealing, they have to do undercover work, get lots of photos, no, it's not marijuana, approach the person after they have proof they're dealing in drugs, take them in, book them in the jail, and then they go in front of a judge. But our criminal justice system has changed, right? So that their approach is, well, we don't want them in jail, so put them right back out. So the chief is explaining all this, and I knew this, that they don't have the staff, they don't have the tools, and if they try to do something, it's a whole bunch of work and a whole bunch of staff time for nothing, because they're back out on the street the next day. So he's like, we can't. So I tell people,
just so people understand, the criminal justice system starts with police on the beat, those on the street who identify and find citizenry who is violating the law. But it doesn't end there. You then have the jails, and you have all the personnel who hold people in custody. You then have the prosecutor's office and the decisions made by the prosecutor's office to not enforce. You then have the courts and the judges and defense attorneys and prosecutors going in front of judges, and judges putting people back out on the street. And you have the rules and laws regarding bail and bail decisions. All of that goes into what you see on 19th and Nicollet.
Correct. You're hitting. And that's what's important for people to understand. It's a whole litany of things. It's a whole set of things that have changed within policing and the criminal justice system.
And it starts with the policies the city council wants to adopt and does adopt for the criminal justice system to work or not.
Exactly, right? The city council, the mayor, and Hennepin County attorney, right? There's kind of at a local level, there's a few different pieces of the puzzle that set the rules of engagement, that kind of dictate how this is going to work. And the socialist platform, now keep in mind, the socialist platform says, we don't want to, we want to pull money from MPD, and we want MPD to do less. We want to take tools from them, and we want to try alternative ways of policing whatnot, and we're going to be soft on crime policy. Right? So you're right. Leadership implements all of this. And so I'm ultimately going to answer your question when people say crime drops. So in the city of Minneapolis, I tell people there's two different types of crime. There's 19th and Nicollet, which is completely out of control. It is now taken over by gangs. They run the neighborhood. So you can imagine how it is running my business in that neighborhood. But then there's another a factor here that I want to point out, and that is, in a normal functioning society, police do a variety of things. They do a whole breadth of things. Some are very minor, some are very serious. The lowest level is a cat in a tree. The highest level is multiple homicides. And there's everything in between: carjackings, theft, stolen bike, whatever. And what we've seen in the city of Minneapolis is, as the staffing levels have fallen, as the rules of engagement has been taken away from them, as the kind of the vilification and attacks on the MPD by their leadership, has caused them to recoil. So all this happened. They're just doing less and less. So they just keep raising the bar what they're going to do. Okay. So now when your bike is stolen, you call MPD, they don't come. When your car is broken into, they don't come. When your storage unit is broken into and stuff is stolen, they don't come. When somebody hits you and does a hit and run and leaves, but you're not hurt, they don't come. Right? So all of the trespassing, they don't come. Drug dealing, they don't come. Right? All of these things, they don't come. They don't have the staff to do this. So they just raise the bar and they say, no, we're only going to come for the important things. So when people say crime is dropping, what they're really talking about is that high level crime, the serious stuff, the homicides, the carjackings, the violent robberies. That's where MPD is focusing their attention, which is correct. They should focus on those things. Given their limited resource, limited ability, they should focus on the most important things, and they're doing a spectacular job. Every officer I deal with, all levels of MPD, Chief O'Hare, I believe they're doing a fantastic job given the hand they're dealt. Right?
And the problem is graffiti, broken windows theory is those quote unquote lower level crimes are ones that affect people's lives day to day. They are the ones that you see, the ones that are the differentiator between a beautiful city that you want to enjoy and gather as a community and one that is ravaged by all of not just inconveniences, but damage.
Yeah.
And it really makes the difference. So it comes from the policymakers. And it certainly does in Washington, D.C., with Congress and the Senate and the president, and it does at the state legislature, et cetera. But it does even more affect our day-to-day lives, the individual citizens' day-to-day lives at the city level. Because at the city level, the local level, you can make a huge difference in people's lives by your policy decisions. Now let's talk about it. We've got 13 council members on the Minneapolis City Council. They're up for a vote 2 weeks from Tuesday. And everybody needs to go out and vote. This is, a municipal election, who cares? And so for all those years dating back to Stenvig, years and years ago, people would say, it's a municipal election. I might go, I might not go. No, this is huge. It's critical. It will make or break Minnesota and certainly the city of Minneapolis. Minnesota, because the city of Minneapolis does, in the end, often make or break the state of Minnesota. And so you got 13 council members. You have, the park board as well, very important. But you also have the mayor's race. If you live in the city of Minneapolis, you need to vote. And if you are a common sense voter, forget about the labels of Democrat or Republican. I don't want to put those out there. If you're a common sense voter, you're not a socialist, you're not, we don't want any police security or safety in our city. I mean, lunacy. lunacy it is. We want to drive business out of our city. We want to tax and regulate so no business will be here because they're raping and pillaging the electorate anyway, businesses. Now, if you reject that, you need to go out and vote. And you need to find out who the DSA candidate is, if there is one, and vote for the other guy. Because these people are coming into our city and changing it for the worse. And it's going to be gutted if they have the right to do that for the next 4 years. So talk to us about the wards that we should pay attention to and who people should vote for.
Sure. I'm just going to echo something you just said. I think one of the best statements I've made, which was in the documentary, which is ringing the most true, is
Precarious State.
We can't survive another 4 years.
Right.
We cannot, the city will not survive 4 more years of this DSA platform. Our neighborhoods, where my properties are, our neighborhoods are already boarding up, building by building, business by business. We can't do this for 4 years. We have to get the city on track. And you made another good point. This is not a Democrat-Republican thing. This is a moderate Democrat DSA thing. This is a moderate Democrat socialist. That is the contest. Pretty much just about every ward of the 13 has a moderate Democrat running against a DSA, a person who embraces the DSA platform.
Yeah,
okay?
Whether they put DSA next to their name or not is not the point. Several of them do. Right. Some of them don't, but fully embrace the DSA platform, vote with the DSAs next to their name, and it's as if they're a part of it. And Katie Cashman is one of those.
Yep, you're exactly correct. In fact, the documentary does a very good job of explaining this.
She votes DSA.
Yes. Yeah, Katie Cashman is one of those who kind of says, I'm just a Democrat. But if you look at her voting record, she almost always votes with the DSA team.
And she represents the area around the lakes, I believe.
Ward 7. So it's uptown west of Hennepin. Yeah, around the lakes.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. And she is soft on crime. She is driving business out. It's one of the nicest areas in the city of Minneapolis that she represents, many, many business owners that she represents. And she keeps voting against their interests and to undermine the city of Minneapolis.
Yeah, I mean, and the proof is in the results, which is if you look at Uptown, you look at her zone, it's a bunch of empty storefronts.
Totally.
Okay.
I mean, Uptown's been destroyed by her kind of policies. You're going to send her back?
Correct. So if we look at the city, at the mayoral level, there is only one option, which is Mayor Fry has to win. He has always been, particularly on the safety issue, he's always been on the right side of the issue. He does not embrace the DSA platform. The other candidates do. So Mayor Fry is the only one to vote for mayor. As it relates to 13 council members, I'm going to make it easy. There's a website. It's allofminneapolis.org. It's allofmpls.org.
allofmpls.org.
If you go there, it's on their front page. It goes through every ward and said, here is the good candidate. So allofmpls.org, that lists all of the good candidates for each ward. It makes it very simple for you to know who to vote for.
And listen, many who listen to this podcast and geez, our numbers are going through the roof, which I say thank you once again. But many who listen are centrists, are independents, and many are conservatives, strongly conservative. They enjoyed listening to the Ronald Reagan clip that I played at the beginning of this episode because they enjoyed hearing his voice again. Isn't that nice? Boy, is the world different today than it was then. And the city of Minneapolis is. So my point is, if you're an independent, if you're a conservative, you need to go, and you live in the city of Minneapolis and have the right to vote, you need to go out and vote. And you need to vote for the moderate candidate. You're not going to be able to vote for a Republican if that's who you are. And if you think you can, it's a wasted vote. You need to vote for sanity. And while, Democrats maybe are too liberal and we don't agree with all of their policies, reasonable moderate Democrats still have sanity. And two-party system where we can hold at bay socialist policies is what we need to support. And that means voting for the good candidate who can win and defeat socialist policies of the DSA.
And I want to add to that. This is very important. This is an off-year election. Historically speaking, it's low voter turnout. Okay. What you need to understand is in the general population, again, people who like the DSA platform and things are going well is a small minority, 5, 10, 15, 20%. But here's the trick. They vote. They will everybody who they're rabid, they're very engaged, right? They're very interested in this. And so 100% of them will vote. We just need enough normal citizens who want to get back to a great city to show up and vote. This is going to come down to if we can get enough just normal citizens who care and want things to get back on track. We get enough of them to vote, we win, period. The socialists, there's not enough of them to win if enough people show up to vote. So this is going to come down to exactly what you're saying is people need to vote, regardless of your political affiliation. That doesn't matter. It's if you want moderate leadership, you want common sense leadership, you want adults to take back, you want to have law and, you want to have a safe city, you have to get out and vote.
And the way you do it is to go to right now, and before you go to vote, and by the way, early voting is open, ALLOFMPLS, allofminneapolis.org, and you will be able to identify through description who the good candidate is and who the DSA candidate is. And by the way, I would be remiss if I did not add the DSA platform in a hidden sort of way and not so hidden is an anti-Semitic platform. And these DSA candidates support anti-Semitic policies. It's a Mamdani group. If you're Jewish in the city of Minneapolis and you're voting for these folks, because I know there are a lot of very liberal Jews in the city of Minneapolis, you're doing it at your own personal risk. It is not good for the Jewish community.
I'm going to just mention, you brought up Mamdani's name running for New York City mayor. It's been interesting for me to watch because his platform and even some of the terms he used when he talks is identical to the DSA platform here.
Yes.
So I hope people in New York City watch the documentary because they'll see what a few years of socialist policies could do to a city.
And it is just a few years. Can you imagine 4 more? Well, hopefully you won't have to imagine it because you'll get out of your chair and you'll go and you'll vote. And you'll vote for the non-DSA candidate, whoever they are, the good candidate, and we will rally behind them. Conservative or independent, that's who I am talking to. Allofminneapolis.org. Go to allofmpls, ALLOFMPLS.org to find out the voting list coming up 2 weeks from Tuesday.
And I want to add one positive note if I can.
Yes.
As bad as things are, I get into a lot of conversations with people who are suffering. As bad as things are, I tell people we still have the lakes, we still have the parks, we still have so many the sports teams, we still have so many great things. If we get good leadership, I think people will be shocked at how fast things can get better in turnaround.
No question. No question. We can do it. Absolutely. Jim Rubin, thank you so much for joining us on the Andrew Parker Show. For all of you out there, go to theandrewparkershow.com, theandrewparkershow.com, and follow us. Of course, like us, but follow us, subscribe. Sign up for getting all of the information we send out by email. Give us your email. Go to social media. Follow us on social media. We're across the board covered. And until next time, and I miss you already, be kind to your neighbor. For more Smart Plain Talk, go to theandrewparkershow.com. Learn about all of your listening and viewing options. And remember, all the great things are simple, and many can be expressed in a single word: freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope. This episode of The Andrew Parker Show is sponsored by Parker Daniels Keyboard and True North Private Investments.
Did your employer make you sign a promissory note when joining the company, and now you want to leave, but you're afraid your firm will pursue you personally for that debt? This is Jesse Keyboard from the law firm Parker Daniels Keyboard. I recently represented a client who had signed such a note, and I was able to get them out of their $500,000 debt to their company, which allowed them the freedom to exit a bad employment situation and enter a much better one. Meeting our clients' objectives is our focus at Parker Daniels Keyboard, and in this regard, we win. Our experienced trial team of lawyers at Parker Daniels Keyboard have secured major victories in state and federal courts across the country and through arbitration. We have the legal expertise in all types of business disputes, labor and employment matters, real estate matters, shareholder disputes, financial transactions, security issues, and appeals. For wise counsel, winning results, contact us at Parker Daniels Keyboard, a premier litigation law firm that provides efficient, aggressive, and innovative solutions to complex legal problems. Wise counsel, winning results. Go to parkerdk.com.
Looking to reduce your tax liability and grow your portfolio? Consider Texas-based Texacoma Resources. They have been delivering results for over 40 years in energy investments. Investors may benefit with strategic advantages like depreciation, depletion, and drilling, but should consult their tax advisors for their specific situation. Call True North Investment at 612-968-3442 to learn more. That's True North Investment, 612-968-3442. Texacoma Energy that works for you.